Hi everyone, welcome to the first session of the CSAC Ping Talks. My name is Chen Xiguo, and I'm currently serving as the CSAC president for term 2022 to 2023. CSAC stands for the Chinese American Engineers and Scientists Association of Southern California. It was founded in 1962, and actually this year we just celebrated our 60-year annual convention. So CSAC strives to serve the Chinese American scientists and engineers community, and we host many events such as the annual convention, the technical symposium, business forum, and the tech salon. We also have programs such as the CSAC scholarship program and the STEM essay contest to cultivate the next generation of scientists and engineers. We have distinguished speakers and awardees come to our conventions to give speeches and accept our awards, such as the Nobel laureates you see here, and other elite professionals like former Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, movie director Ang Lee, and actress Lisa Liu. It's a very strong network we have here, and since 1984, CSAC has held the scholarship program. It has been running for almost 4 decades. We're glad that many of our scholarship alumni have become respected experts in their fields, such as professors, doctors, investors, entrepreneurs, executives, directors, managers, engineers in tech and finance firms, and many more. We have governmental officials, lawyers, accountants, you name it. So we are really glad that we were part of their journey to pursue their dreams. And we hope to leverage CSAC's excellent network of scholarship awardees to better serve the community, which is why we started the Ping Talk series this year. The Ping Talk stands for Professional Insights for Next Generation Talks, and we are inviting seasoned professionals from various backgrounds to share their personal stories, as well as their insights of the current trends in their fields with us. So each session will be about 1 hour in length. We will first start with the chat for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then we will spend the majority of the time of the session taking questions from the audiences. During the talk, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box, and we'll get to them at the Q&A session. And well, our first speaker of the Ping Talk series is Dr. Stanley Chang. Dr. Chang is a 3-time CSAC scholarship awardee. He has been teaching pure mathematics at Wellesley College outside of Boston since 2001. His research centers around a subfield of topology called surgery theory. His research monograph on this subject, entitled A Course on Surgery Theory, was published in 2021 in the Princeton Annals of Mathematics Studies. He received his PhD from the University of Chicago, his master's degree from the University of Cambridge, and his undergrad degree from UC Berkeley. He also has a great passion for classical piano music and ancient and modern languages. Welcome, Dr. Chang.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have the book that you sent me earlier, but I really want to share it with the audience later. So I'm gonna put that link in the chat box later. Yeah, so thank you for being here. I know I have briefly introduced you to the audience. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for for inviting me to this talk series, and certainly for the help that CSAC gave me over 30 years ago. I was, I was actually, born to Chinese. My father was an engineer. My mother was receiving her psychology degree from UCLA, and I grew up in Southern California and went to public school. I felt like, even though I'm a mathematician now, I feel that in many ways, and I would like to impress upon you this idea that it's not just mathematics that gets people where they are. They're a mathematician. I happen to have a very strong love and an interest in language. And in high school, I was not particularly all that interested in mathematics as I was in literature. And, and in life, I realized that sometimes the advantages that I was able to receive, like in the form of scholarships, had to do with how I wrote. So I felt like, the sort of confluence of these, two things that I was good at, writing and mathematics, really helped me get to where I am today. I'm a professor at Wellesley College. I've been here for about 20 years. I just finished a very challenging 3 years as chair of my department during COVID. We are an all-women's college, a liberal arts college, which has a very strong research profile. And my time is separated into administrative work and teaching and research. My research has been in pure mathematics over the last 20 years, but now I'm expanding into other kinds of areas, including the digital humanities. So that's just a little brief outline of my earlier life and my life now.
Cool. And so you have been teaching at Wellesley College for over 20 years, right? Since
That's right.
2001.
That's
So, like you said, Wellesley College is one of the best liberal arts colleges in the US, and you have many outstanding alumni, such as Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright. I think some names more familiar with the Dutch Chinese students may be more familiar with like Song Meiling and the Chinese author Bing Xing. Can you tell us like what's the difference between a liberal arts college and a university?
Sure. I mean, I think that there is a misconception that liberal arts colleges are all about the humanities, where in fact, that's actually not true. Liberal arts is as a way of teaching. It's not really about subject material. Wellesley College has 52 majors, including mathematics and physics and chemical physics and neuroscience and biological sciences and economics. We have many, many STEM-related fields, and the STEM-related fields are getting stronger and stronger. The model of the liberal arts college is that our student body is very small. It has about 500 students per year for a total of about 2,000 to 2,400 students on campus. It is almost exclusively residential, meaning students live on campus for all 4 years. Our classes are usually capped at about 25 to 30 students. So there's a culture at Wellesley and at many liberal arts colleges. All the professors know your name. There's a very, very strong culture of office hours, individual meetings, group learning, very hands-on mentoring. We help students with their grad school applications. We help them choose their classes. Every single person is really devoted to teaching, and I don't think a single one of my colleagues at Wellesley can be considered a poor teacher. Teaching is of the utmost importance. If you're a poor teacher, you will not pass 3 years at Wellesley. And these days, there's a lot of attention on student research. We have a lot of student research projects. We have a lot of money for students to do research, especially in the sciences. What we do lack, I will admit, is that because of the size, and not all liberal arts colleges have a graduate program. As a result, many students who finish our curriculum, before they graduate are not really in a position to take graduate courses at our institution because we have none. Fortunately for Wellesley, we have MIT right down the street, and a lot of students take graduate courses at MIT once they've depleted the Wellesley curriculum.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that definitely clarified the questions that I had, because I thought like it's more about humanities myself. So you just finished your term as a chair professor of the Department of Mathematics. We know that as a professor, you already have to spend a lot of time teaching and doing your own research. While if it being the chair professor, you have definitely add more administrative work to it. So how do you balance your time among the three, or maybe I should say, like what's a typical day like, or like what's your day like, or what's your life like as a math professor?
Yeah. So first of all, as a professor, and this is very true, I think, across all professorial fields, is that you never actually stop working. Um, you bring your homework with you. Today, for example, I spent 2 hours with my students online. When I go on vacation, I bring my papers to grade. It's an all-consuming profession, even though we're only in the classroom maybe 7 or 8 hours per week, and we're only in session about 26 weeks of the year. It is a full-time job all the time. Because if you're not doing things with teaching, then you should be doing your research. So it really is an all-consuming profession that some people have to balance their home life with. As the chair during COVID, it was different than most chairs had to deal with. We had to put classes online very, very quickly. We had to respond to all the administrators right away. Everything was done in an impromptu, almost, sometimes it felt random. But Wellesley worked out very smoothly. As a chair, you have to field student questions about majors and minors and whether they can transfer this credit from another university. And there are lots of technical things as chair that have to do with what it means to complete a major, because the more possibilities you would have, for example, of taking courses over the summer at a different university, the question arises, can I transfer this credit to Wellesley and fulfill a major with that? So there are lots of technicalities that one has to go through. We also, a chair's responsibility is also to lead hiring. And we have all the sciences at Wellesley are growing. Yeah, I mean, sort of, contrary to common belief, and I had this notion too when I was living on the West Coast, is that I didn't really know what a liberal arts college is. But the fact is that we have a very, very strong STEM system. Students from Wellesley are going to MIT and Stanford and Berkeley in math and physics and chemistry. It's becoming increasingly more popular to do science at liberal arts colleges. I spend a lot of time working with my students. We have a very strong culture of office hours, which I never had at Berkeley. Students do much of their learning not only in class, but out of class during office hours. And students are, always asking for stuff. And it's kind of, it's kind of around the clock. So these days, while we're just coming out of COVID, there are lots of students that need, a little bit extra help getting back into the academic roles. And so we do a lot of one-on-one mentoring, and this happens every day.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that, because like I don't think that's like seen like in every college or every university. I remember when you were telling me like students, when you were in class, you're like busy taking notes and everything, you're not really learning. It's like when you actually go to your office hours, that's when you start learning, start thinking, and like asking the right questions and getting corrected as well. I think that kind of atmosphere is really helping the students to learn. I think that's really good information for people. Like I think hopefully like the audience really got to visualize what the math professor's life is like. Like you have to spend so much time doing all the teaching and research and administrative work. We actually have like a picture of you working, like you sent me earlier. I definitely want to share. Let me share my let me share my. Can you guys see it? So yeah. So Dr. Chang at work is just like this. Actually, I was asking him to send me something, hoping to receive something like he was doing research. I was like, is he gonna send me like a very comfortable couch or something where he just sit there and do his research and like his notebook? Or but no, actually, I think he got a point. Like a lot of the math professor's job is about teaching about like really cultivating the younger generation, and that's what what's so special at liberal arts colleges, and really appreciate that. So jumping out of the perspective of a professor, from a student's um, perspective, right? As your students and math major students, what did they learn at school, and what may be like the most challenging part for them, in your opinion?
You know, the profile of the average student in America is changing. Okay, I think part of the reason is that high schools have decided. I mean, when I was a student, high schools had a very strict curriculum. You know, we had names for courses: algebra and algebra 2, geometry, trigonometry, analytic geometry. These days, they have these other words like pre-algebra or pre-calculus, right? Which to me means absolutely nothing, okay? And if you look closely at the college curriculum, you know, there's so much overlap in all of their courses that it's not really clear what they're teaching students. We have a lot of students come to Wellesley who, for example, somehow managed not to take trigonometry, or they managed not to study like logarithms at all. So there's a lot of variation in the ability level of students these days. And one of our challenges right now is to try to understand that the curriculum that we had right now is based on a student body from 50 years ago, okay? And that's very different. I mean, back in the day, right, Wellesley was full of very, you know, wealthy women from you know, very affluent neighborhoods of New England. And now things are very different. In fact, I think these days, if you're a very affluent, you know, person from New England, your chances of getting into Wellesley are actually quite slim. So the demographic has changed. And one of the things that we are struggling with most as a college, as a department, as the entire sort of collegiate, you know, conglomerate across the country is to try to understand how to reconfigure our curriculum. So this semester I'm teaching linear algebra. Some of my students, you know, place out of all calculus courses. They're very smart, and they place into linear algebra. But you know, I teach mathematics from a completely linguistic viewpoint. This is something that they've never seen before. You know, they're all, I wouldn't say that they're all suffering, but they're all having their minds expanded very quickly. Some of them absorb it in very fast, some of them take longer. And so, yeah, they're, you know, part of the challenge that my colleagues and I all face, especially in math, is to find the right level at which to teach the material. If you have a class full of students who are very capable and some who are behind, exactly where do you teach? You don't want to bore the smart students. You don't want to you know, overrun the ones that are weaker. It's a constant challenge to move back and forth between different ability levels in the same space.
Yeah, I mean, I learned something from you. Now I learn how to say suffering a different way. But let's say for like as a like general advice for students, then like now that we're having these issues, what do you think if some students are interested in math and they want to get into a math major, or like they're gonna, I mean, everyone's gonna take some math courses at college, I think. What do you think they can, how do you think they can prepare themselves now that we are in the new era, like our high school curriculum is like reconfigured like that? How can we get better prepared for ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, there are, I think a lot of students are just willing to accept that their high school curriculum is all they have to know. And I feel that more and more over time, students are less able or interested or willing to do enrichment work just because they want to. Okay, I think that with the internet, where we're all playing with our phones and trying to reach the next level of our game, everything is being fed to us in a certain kind of way. I think we lack creativity in our younger students. I know that a lot of students think that doing math competitions is the way to get into good colleges. Okay, I will assure you that that's not the case. I mean, just as an example, when I went to graduate school, there were 4 people in my graduate program and my cohort that were in the mathematical Olympiad. Okay, and only 1 person finished on time of the 4. Okay, so there are characteristics, of being a mathematician that I think young people don't necessarily realize. It's not about being flashy, doing well on exams, doing tricky problems. It's really about taking a problem that you have no idea how to do and then spending weeks thinking about it. Okay, it's the opposite of what you think is a brilliant mathematics student who can get the answer right away. It's not that at all. Okay.
It's not like you can do 25 questions like
No, nobody,
within.
right. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody cares if you can multiply 5-digit numbers in your head. That's not mathematics. Those are clever tricks. And there are people who can do them and they're very talented. But there are things that they cannot do that are required in the mathematical profession. Like stick with a problem for a year. These are the kinds of people who succeed, not the people who can do questions very fast. But I think that for students who want to make sure that they're ready when they go to college, there are I would say, to think a little bit more broadly about what it means to be a thinker. Okay, and not just believe that the road to success is to get on the Olympiad team or do really well on some national math contest. That's not the way. The way is to read a lot, and not just mathematics, read a lot about everything. And think about what it means to be a scholar. It's not just about getting high scores. I mean, that's important. Okay, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah, I think that's really like eye-opening for myself as well, because like I have 2 daughters, and one of them was like better in math than the other. But I think like you're right. Instead of really trying to solve the problems at like the contest, it's really more about like if they are interested in like solving, let's say, a riddle or a puzzle, like they want to think logically and try to solve that problem and put their efforts to it and really get inspired and really actually about feeling the happiness when they're actually solving it. So that's what I see from them. If they like demonstrate that, I was like, oh yeah, you're on the right track, instead of like getting 100 points on every test you take.
Yeah, I think we should really think very strongly about the way that technology, for example, games, right? Computer games, which many people love to play, are all about getting you to progress through a certain thing without making it too hard. Okay, because when you make it too hard, then people will give up, and then the company won't make any money, right?
Yeah.
We have to resist, okay, the effort of only trying to do things that we can do very, very easily. Okay, because I think that a lot of my students, I can see their creativity is almost gone. They're not curious. They're not passionate about things, and and I think that as individuals who are if you're interested in mathematics, I would say reach out to a teacher or a professor from somewhere and say, I'd like to think about a more serious problem than the riddles that I'm being given by these math contests.
Yeah.
That will get you much farther.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And let's say if a student survived the math like 4 years of math studies, what do they go on to do? Like, do they move on to graduate studies at Wellesley College? They, as a math major student, what kind of job do they take after that?
Yeah, so there's a variety. I mean, the thing about mathematics is that, and here's the honest truth, okay, is that you're at your maximal employability with mathematics when you have a master's degree, okay? The problem with having a PhD in math is that, you know, you're so specialized that even if you try to go back into the real world, you know, people will think, you know, I don't know if he's right for this place because he's just going to be bored, right? Or maybe he's not the right fit. Okay, a lot of students go the route of economics, financial, mathematics. They want to make a lot of money. They go into hedge funds, stuff like that. Some of them become high school teachers. Some go to graduate programs. We have very, very good students, and increasingly many so, you know, getting their PhDs in pure math and getting jobs at other liberal arts colleges or research colleges. One thing about mathematics is that it's actually, with a degree in mathematics, we're actually quite employable in general, because a lot of companies, for example, there are computer companies that they don't hire computer scientists, right? They hire mathematicians because, you know, for example, the company might have its own internal system and they don't want, you know, people with prior experience in other computer systems to bring in their biases. So mathematicians are quite employable in lots of technical fields, even without any technical experience. That was never the route that I wanted to go into, but different people are motivated by different things. And there are lots of students at Wellesley who major in economics. We have a very strong economics faculty, and they have mathematics as a secondary major. And they go to econ grad school, for example, very, very strong in math, okay? Which is, you know, which is by far, you know, much more than some of their colleagues will have had when they go to graduate school.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the information. I'm so glad to hear that there are so many possibilities for math major students. Although, like you seem to mention, like PhD is not so popular at the job market. But like when we talked last time, you mentioned that there is a current trend that's pairing a very high mathematics background with an economic finance major to really get competitive advantage for the students later. Is there any other majors that can benefit from like interdisciplinary studies with math, such as like do they pair like artificial intelligence or data science, like the hot topics nowadays, with math? Is that something you see in your students?
Yeah, I mean, so data science is a complex thing, okay? Data science is becoming very popular. There are universities that are building entire centers for data science, but nobody actually knows what data science exactly is. There's no theoretical foundation for it. We have a data science major, okay, but it's highly interdisciplinary. It requires some computer science and some statistics. But you know, mathematics has been traditionally a very closed field. So in other words, for example, we have many courses at Wellesley that belong to two departments, you know. So there might be a sociology class that's cross-listed in the poli-sci department because they straddle the two. Mathematics has very, very, very few classes that are cross-listed with anyone. But things are changing slowly. Mathematics is becoming useful in, well, mathematics has always been useful in the physical sciences, okay? That goes without saying. It's becoming more and more important in the social sciences. So for example, you know, econ students, which when I was at Berkeley, the econ students just had to take calculus, right? But now econ students at Wellesley, for example, are encouraged to take real analysis, which is extremely hard. So the level of scholarship required to go into some of these subjects are becoming, more quantitative in a sense. Statistics and biostatistics is, of course, extremely important. Usually students who are going into that field, don't take quite as many pure math courses, okay? So that's kind of an arena that I don't really know much about, okay? But for example, we have, so at Wellesley, a colleague and I created an institute of mathematics and democracy, right? Which sounds like a very strange combination. But the idea is that how do we deploy democracy? We vote, okay? We vote and we make decisions based on voting. But voting is all about mathematics, right? What is the mathematical underpinning behind a voting system like the Electoral College? And why does it fail to represent the true will of the public? So we are getting more and more involved in other kinds of ways to approach the world in a more quantitative way. These are becoming more and more popular. And I think that it's going to be, and the digital humanities, for example, is a very big subject these days. Humanists have run out of things to say in a way. And so what they do now is they use computer technology to try to understand literature from a different point of view. And I'm involved in some projects like that.
That's cool. Yeah. So those are like all the questions we collected before, like before we as we were planning the event. So we also have a few questions that we collected from like the feedback forms we got, but I'll give priority to the attendees today. So if you, Jinxin, can you make everyone can unmute themselves?
Sure.
And yeah, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. You can ask Stanley. And if we are out of questions or out of time, I'll let you know. If we are out of questions, I also have a few that we collected from the online survey forms. I will supply later.
Yeah, everyone, you are now able to unmute yourself and open the video.
Is there anyone who want to ask the first question? No, really? If no, as you guys were thinking about the first question, let me ask a question that we collected earlier. So actually, this one is pretty interesting. So this one says, is math invented or discovered? Is math really like an invention or like a discovery, right? It's like, it's about something that it's already there. You're not inventing something new, but we are inventing ways to understand it. So what's your view on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that we all struggle with. And, I don't think that it's as cut and dry. I mean, there are questions that don't have binary answers, right? Either yes or no, either this one or that one, I think what happens is that is actually quite different. Okay, so most mathematics questions are motivated by natural phenomena. Okay, we want to count things. We see an object drop to the ground. Okay, we want to understand how objects move, right? And so there are these principles that that are at the forefront of new subjects in mathematics, like number theory, right? Or so in those kinds of senses, I think that the subjects themselves, okay, originate as a kind of discovery, okay? So what you do is you take a realistic problem, okay, and then you try to model it in some quantitative way. But then what mathematicians do is then, which is actually a very, very odd concept, is they take a question that's motivated by a realistic situation, and they abstractify it in a certain way, right? I'm not going to explain how we do that, but it becomes an abstract question that is now absent from a physical situation, okay? And we take that abstract notion and then we discover things, I think, okay? No, I'm sorry, did I get this backwards? I think I might have gotten this backwards. We create, okay, we create a system that, that explains a physical phenomena, okay? And then from that system, we develop axioms, and then we discover things from that, okay? So I think that mathematics is really a two-stage system, okay? One is about creating a relationship between the real world and a mathematical idea. And then afterwards, it's about abstractifying the idea and discovering things based on that idea, okay?
Got it.
So I think that is probably the best way that I can say it.
Cool. Yeah, I think I got a brief idea of how that works. Anyone have questions about, like, I mean, I think our audience who came in here wondering something about math, or like if they're students, they are learning math, they have question about their, like, how to plan their future. So if you got those questions, it's time to ask now. The time to ask is now, because if you don't, I'm gonna ask the next question. Yes, no, really? Yeah, okay. So I got another one here. So this one is actually for like young students, I think. It's probably submitted by a parent. It says, for like young students, such as like kindergarten or like low elementary grade students, how do we inspire their interest in learning math for them? What are the ways you would suggest?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. And, you know, to be frank, I don't really know a lot about primary math education. But I know that but I will say that the way that we've created our math curriculum in America and across the world in general is not the only way to learn mathematics. I mean, we all know that we learn about, you know, numbers and operations and fractions and our multiplication tables, and then we do algebra and geometry. But those are that sequence of ideas is not the only sequence that is possible, okay? So this sequence has developed, I think, in part because we want engineers and physicists to be able to reach the level of calculus, okay? And then as a result, there's all this stuff we have to learn before that. And that is, I think, that in a different civilization, if you thought about what mathematics meant, it would not necessarily have developed this way, okay? And so there are lots of other branches of math, like discrete math, logic, symbolic systems, that you can actually find, you know, programs like this on the internet. I would say that it's not all that useful to accelerate your child to the degree that they're going to be bored in school, okay? Let the teachers in school teach the material to the students. Teach the students something else, okay? Teach your kids another subject in mathematics to raise their interest. But I think that one of the most dangerous things that one can do is make your too fast, and then they're going to be out of step with their classmates. It's not really all that necessary, but, you know, build their interest in other things that are mathematical or quasi-mathematical, okay? Any kind of science would help, right? Even language, okay? But you know, Terry, your question is what should they do? But I think one should also think about what should they not do, okay? And I think that making your child prematurely ready to do too much math will cause a lot of problems later on in their maturation. And some students, for example, wind up taking calculus too early. Some students take calculus in the 10th grade, and then their school runs out of stuff. Okay, so they wind up taking statistics for 2 years, which is not, there's nothing wrong with statistics. But the thing is, once they get to college, they will have had 3 years without calculus. Okay, and then there's a big problem there because they've forgotten how to do everything. They've forgotten their algebra. Okay, so I think it's really important to keep very, very steady pace and not to push too hard to advance too quickly.
I think I get your idea. It's like if it not like stepping faster doesn't necessarily get you far. Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, mathematics needs to soak. If you go too fast, you're not gonna learn it deeply. And then you're going to have all this extra time at the end of high school where you're not doing any math, and that's not good. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. For let's say we do have a question from high school students. That is, is there any resources you would recommend for like high school students in like getting to know about like college math?
Well, I mean, there, for example, if you live close to a university, and if you deplete your curriculum in high school, suppose you do finish and you take math and the calculus in the 10th grade, and maybe your counselor says, oh, you can take these statistics courses or these other courses. Well, that's fine, take them if you want, but take more at your local university, okay? Try to progress as far as you can in the calculus curriculum, because that is your ticket when you go to college to get into higher level courses, okay? Don't let yourself go a year without taking a serious mathematics course, okay? Even if you have to do it yourself or find a teacher to do it with you independently. It's really important to keep fresh, okay, with mathematical operations and facility with mathematics. A lot of students these days, I feel, have to look everything up, okay? They have to look up everything.
Yeah.
They're not forced to memorize anything, okay? Now, I'm not saying that memorization is necessarily bad, but if you think about, I mean, suppose you were taking French, okay? And your professor gave you a French essay to read or a French poem to read, and you had to look up every single word, okay? That's not the kind of experience that you want when you want to learn something more deeply. You have to have some fundamentals. And so stop looking up everything, commit some things to memory, have it at your fingertips. As far as college math goes, yeah, I mean, there are lots of curricula online. There are lots of videos online where you can learn whole courses in mathematics. If a student is interested in something in particular or is trying to find something that he or she wants to pursue, by all means, Terry, you can ask them to contact me. I'm happy to see where they are and get them to where they want to be.
For sure. Guys, this is a rare opportunity. Make sure you contact me or so I can direct you to Dr. Chang later. I got a question from Wenshen. Do you want to ask it yourself? You can unmute yourself and ask the question. Let's give it 5 seconds for him or her to figure it out. Oh, she said, or he said, his mic is not working. So the question is, what is the purpose of learning upper division math? What do we actually learn from these courses? I think that means like advanced math classes in universities. What do we actually get from those?
Yeah, I mean, so, I mean, that's a there are several different answers for that question. You know, I can say, well, you know, you can learn how to model real life events so that you can become a physicist or an engineer. You can build things. You can make a lot of money. You can, you know, figure out some optimization problem that, you know, increases traffic flow or something like that. And that is one direction of mathematics, right? So higher mathematics means, you know, you're solving much more complex problems. For example, you know, if you're throwing an object in the air and it falls down, okay, you can model that using some basic algebra, right? But if you want to understand how air resistance will affect it, okay, or how about, you know, the nature of, you know, nature of air and its, you know, wind and stuff like that, then the problems get more and more complicated, and higher level math will dig into these problems much more deeply. Okay, so that's one answer that one can give if you're, you know, if you're interested in that kind of answer. Okay, I mean, mathematics has the really unique property of actually not having. One can be a mathematician, okay, and make a living as a mathematician without doing anything that has any practical application to anything in life, okay? And that's what makes math so kind of amazing, okay, is that we spend all of our time, you know, training our minds, understanding these very, very difficult problems, which maybe the general public would not really care about knowing, okay? But the thing is, you know, mathematics belongs to everyone in mathematics belongs to a place in the mathematical system, okay? Every single application of a mathematical idea has to come from a mathematical theory, okay? And there are people who do the mathematical theory like me, okay, without caring about the applications. But there are people who care about the applications, and they bridge the gap between the theoretical mathematicians and, say, the engineers, right? And so there's a whole array of people, and people have their own particular interests, and they slot themselves into somewhere along this continuum, and they make this machine work, okay? And the interesting thing is that the machine works without, there's enough people to occupy every position in this big machine, okay, that we don't have to worry about there being too few people, okay? So, you know, do I do mathematics because I hope one day my theories will be used to build a better cell phone? No, I don't really care about that. Okay, but I do care about ideas. Okay, and mathematics is the place where, you know, ideas are in their purest forms. Okay, and, you know, you want to learn about the structures of things. You learn concepts are placed together and abstractified and structured, then that's what mathematics does, okay? But as far as what you get out of mathematics, okay, I think is a really difficult question. It really depends on who you are. You know? What I get out of mathematics is not the same thing as what somebody else might get out of it, okay? And then I guess there's also, you know, it's an art, you know. What do we get out of art? I don't know. Right? So, but I think as a mathematician, it's very important to be able to enunciate this particular idea.
Yeah. I think like, just like, I have actually like a very similar question here as well. That well, I know this is a high school student, and she asks like, how can the study of mathematics apply in life overall? Is it worth it? Also, that's really like you said, it really depends on the person. Like if you,
yeah, I mean, if you are someone who wants to make a lot of money, okay, then maybe math would not be worth it. I don't know, right? But if you're a scholar, I mean, you know, it's worth it for me because I tend to be a very, you know, I tend to think in very abstract ways, right? I like systems of objects, not just systems of mathematics, but systems of language, this kind of person. You know, being a professor is not necessarily, maybe sort of glamorous in a way, okay, but we don't make money to tell you the truth. And, you don't, and to be, a mathematician at a liberal arts college or whatever is something that you have to do if you don't care that much about making a lot of money, for example. Okay, you have to care about something else. So it really depends, of course. Is it worth it? Depends on what you find to be worthwhile. It may be completely, utterly, completely useless to some people. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you have the gift of being able to learn math quickly, then you have to decide. Do I want, what kind of life do I want? Do I want a life as a scholar, or do I want a life as a business person? Do I want to make money or not money? Do I want to help people or not help people? It depends on what your profile is. I can't answer that for you.
Yeah, but I think that's a good question that we bring it up, and so people can start asking themselves that question. They can decide for themselves, like what kind of person I am and what I'm really interested in. That's actually why we started this Ping Talk series, right? Because we've seen so many cases where people take a major or make decision of their future because their parents want them to, or their parents heard that one of their neighbors got a good job from this major and like tell them to, but when they got into college, they don't know what their interests are. They may have to change their major. They may have to quit and like do something else. It's a detouring life for them. It's not necessarily helping them. So that's why we hope this Ping Talk can help people with. I think we have time to take another question. Is there any other question from the audience? If not, I do have one last question here. So this is the question I think that was asked, we collected earlier, that says, is math major only for students who excel in math and win like math competition awards? Is that like only for those students? I think you touched that, but you got any more feedback on that?
So, I mean, what happened to me personally was that I was the best student in mathematics in my high school, okay, and before that. And in fact, I was taking college classes in math, but I was never really all that. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about becoming a mathematician, right? But I liked math and I kept doing math. And I think that I always felt like math was just something I was good at. I was always going to be good at it. But when I was, at Berkeley in my junior year, I realized, wow, I mean, I looked around in my math class and there are some brilliant people. There are some brilliant students in mathematics, and I will never be, I may get good grades, but I will never be as fast as they are. I will never be as smart as they are. And that really shook me for about a week. Okay, for a week, I'm like, maybe I can't do mathematics because I'm just, I'm not good enough. I'm not like them, But the thing is, what I ultimately discovered after 1 week is, who cares? I'm going to do it because I like doing it. They may not actually wind up being mathematicians. Okay. In fact, one of the most brilliant people in one of my classes at Berkeley became an anesthesiologist, right? So there's room in the universe for people of all different math skills, right? There is a certain level of competency you have to have, right? I mean, everybody takes time to understand new concepts, but one thing, for example, that I find in some of my students is that they have no memory, right? So when I can teach them something on the spot, and they will understand, but they will forget, okay? And that's not something that anybody can control. I cannot control how well you remember things. So, I think part of what's important about mathematics and being good at mathematics is the extent to which you can recall things that you've seen before, okay, and then apply them in interesting new ways. It is not about learning tricks, being great at, math contests. It is not about being the best in math. There are lots and lots of people who are not the best in math, who are mathematicians now. In fact, the people that you see in high school getting the most, acclaims for being a fancy test taker is not going to become a mathematician. He's not. Okay, so that's the God honest truth, right? Mathematicians are people who, can synthesize information, okay, and then work with it slowly and keep digging. It's like digging into a big mine. You have to have the patience to do that. Okay, people who are fancy at contests, they have no patience.
Yeah, I think there's a give and a curse at the same time, probably.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good
Yeah.
for what it is, but it's not. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a great mathematician.
Yeah, they're gonna do well in what they choose to do, probably.
Yeah,
Just not necessarily in math.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chang. It's a great pleasure to have you here and
Thank
share
you
your
very much.
stories and insights with the students and parents. Before we let you go, do you have any, like, if we give you like a one-liner, like a three sentences you want to give as suggestion or advice to our audience, to our students?
Yeah, I loved, first of all, so one of the things I really love doing, and I feel like I'm really good at, is that I can talk to somebody and figure out exactly what it is that they want and how to move that to how to achieve that. Okay, so if you have any questions about curriculum in mathematics, enrichment in mathematics, how to learn different kinds of mathematics better, how to not be bored in math, how to excel in math, please reach out to Terry, and Terry will reach out to me, and I'm happy to tell you what I know.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen for like one last time. It's great advice. So I also like to thank our audiences for attending that first Ping Talk session. We're still trying to figure things out. CESAC will CESAC will have more events coming up, including next Saturday, we're going to have the second episode of Dr. Jonathan's STEAM seminar coming up, telling us, like, it's called Reaching for the Stars, telling us how to excel in like STEM majors, to do things, to cultivate your interest in the STEM fields. And also in 2 weeks, we're going to have the second episode of our Ping Talks, which we have Dr. Sansan Kwan from UC Berkeley. She is a professor and chair at Department of Theater, Dance, and Performing Studies. And she is also a professional dancer. So she's gonna talk about like how, if you have interest in art, but your parents tell you to take a practical major, how do you balance between the two, and how actually, like, contrary to your thinking, actually some courses in performing arts actually help you in other careers as well. So please stay tuned for that. And you can follow CESAC on our YouTube channel. Just search for CESAC on YouTube, or if you use WeChat, you can search for CESAC Media or use the QR code here. We also have a group chat established for the Ping Talks, so you can take a screenshot and use the QR code on the right to join the community, and we will post more events and a recording of this on the YouTube channel as well. You can also visit us on our website at cesac.org. Yeah, so please note that we will be inviting our speakers for our second season based on your feedback. Because if you tell us, we need to know like what your interests are, what other professions you want to know about, and to decide what speakers to invite for the second season, which will be the start of next year. So please, Jingxin, can you post the link in the chat box? So people can use that link and fill in a survey and let us know what fields of professions you're interested in. If you want to share your own stories, this is for parents. If you want to share your own stories, you want to share insights of your own profession, please use the email here to contact me. That's terry.guochenqi@gmail.com. And lastly, I would like to note that CESAC is a nonprofit organization, and our team are all unpaid volunteers we couldn't have come so far without our General Institute and individual sponsors. If you're interested in donating to CESAC, please contact me as well. So we'll park at this page. We'll call it a day. And thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Chang, for taking the time. And we may have further like future events. We would like to invite you to talk to the students. And we're looking forward to meeting like everyone here again in 2 weeks. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll just park here for about 3 minutes, and let us know if you have any questions in math. If you, like Dr. Chang said, if you have questions you would like to ask him, you can send the email to me and I'll direct that to him. Okay.
Hi, Chang, can you show the last slide of the group?
Oh, sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, let me park on this page instead. Okay. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. I'll mute myself and stop my video. This event will terminate in 2 minutes.